There was no way that Zenith was going to discontinue the 38mm Chronomaster for good, and I'm so happy it's back. "2021 has been an interesting year for Zenith, and they've been super high on my radar. So earlier in the year, they launched the Zenith Chronomaster Sport, which obviously everyone started calling the Zaytona. We made a video on that watch, so if you want to check it out, I'll link it below. And then they also discontinued their 38mm chronograph. So for a while, there was a void in their collection, and the only way you can get a vintage style sized chronograph was through the A384 series, which we also made videos on, linked below. But now in 2021, Zenith has revived the A386 design in the new Chronomaster Original, or I'm going to call it the Chronomaster OG. This Chronomaster OG comes in 5 new pieces, 2 in stainless steel with the white dial, 2 in stainless steel in the Panda reverse dial, and then also 1 in rose gold. And the one I'm going to show you today is the classic white dial, tricolor subdials on the blue leather strap. I'm so excited, let's jump right in. Overall, the design of this watch is a modern reinterpretation of the classic A386, which originally debuted in 1969, well over 50 years ago. The A386 introduced the El Primero, the first automatic chronograph movement. As the size suggests, this new Chronomaster is 38mm by my measurements, has a thickness of 12mm and a lug-to-lug of 44mm, making it super wearable on the wrist and even thinner than the previous 38mm Chronomaster, which originally was 13mm. On my 6.4-inch wrist, the watch fits perfectly, and anyone else who likes compact tool watches will certainly enjoy the size as well. If you factor the dome sapphire crystal, which is roughly 2mm, the watch itself wears like it's only 10mm thick. And due to this reduced thickness, I do believe that is where the watch compromises down to 5-bar water resistance instead of the previous generation's 10-bar water resistance. One of my favorite aspects of the watch is looking through the edges of the dome sapphire crystal to view the dial, where you get that sweet natural crystal distortion around the edges, mimicking early acrylic and mineral crystals. Thanks to Zenith for removing the bezel and just focusing on the beauty of the case that features brushed surfaces facing the wearer and high polish on the case sides with a slight bevel in between to show that dimension. The dial retains that classic A386 design, starting with the latest most noticeable change being the white inner bezel denoting the 1/10 of a second new high beat movement instead of the classic tachymeter scale. Then onto the dial, the black minute track that is contrasted with clear white lines and font. Then at the center, the white lacquer dial with the classic tricolor subdials from pale gray, anthracite gray to blue. And the dial text remains minimal at 3 lines of text. And I always thought that the previous generation of 38mm was just missing something when it came to the dial. And now the new Chronomaster OG in 38 feels to have filled that void by bringing back the 36,000 VPH text to denote its high beat movement. The handset remains very similar to the original A386, with now what appears to be a slimmer, more refined version of the handset with black lacquer tips with rectangular superluminova in the body of the hand. The chronograph hand remains in classic bright red and is bare from any rectangular shape at the tip or Zenith star, and is nicely tipped at the end to touch the edge of the dial. The date position also remains the same between the 4 and 5 o'clock hour marker, which is a classic El Primero feature. The date window itself having a bit more depth and 3D effect with the step down into the date wheel. I also find that this new date wheel is easier to read, especially when you compare it to the previous generation, because when you get to the double digits of 10s, sometimes the number 1 would sit a little bit too close to the edge, and now this new date wheel on the Chronomaster OG reads really well and legible. If you compare this watch to the previous 38mm, the subdials at 3 and 6 o'clock for the chronograph now have very small white lines between every second or minute counter, which is a great visual cue to differentiate between the counter for the time and the chronograph. Because on the previous 38mm, they would do this by simply having the chronograph subdials use a handset with a similar red color to the chronograph hand. But now on the new Chronomaster OG, all the handset is in white. So Zenith found another way to balance and differentiate the subdials for proper use. This iconic A386 now features the automatic El Primero 3600 movement, which is the same high beat movement that was featured in the Chronomaster Sport. This movement can measure 1/10 of a second, recording with its high beat or 36,000 VPH escapement. Another feature of this movement is that it has an extended power reserve of 60 hours, and the architecture of the movement is incredibly beautiful, featuring Zenith's classic star rotor and an awesome blue column wheel, which is visible even when activating the chronograph pushers. If you've seen our other videos on Zenith that I've covered, then you'll know that I am a fan of their pump pusher action when activating the chronograph, and the pushers here have a similar tactile, snappy sensation. When using the chronograph, the pushers respond immediately, and the chronograph seconds, hands, and subdials all whip into action or snap back into zero position when resetting. Zenith isn't afraid to show its workmanship and proudly displays its beautiful column wheel high beat chronograph movement through its open sapphire case back. So the way you would read this watch is, as the red chronograph hand skips across the dial, you would use the inner chapter ring to read every 1/10 of a second. Then if you look at the 3 o'clock subdial in blue, that's going to count your active seconds, so your total seconds out of 60 seconds for a minute. And then down at 6 o'clock, you look at that mid-gray anthracite dial, and it's going to count the running minutes. So this can count up to 60 minutes total. Unfortunately, it can't go past an hour, but usually 60 minutes is enough to count something that you're timing. Overall, this new Zenith Chronomaster OG is a home run for Zenith and an even better recreation to the original A386, retaining most of its beautiful design aesthetic from the late 60s, early 70s, but adopting its latest 1/10 of a second movement. It fits amazingly well on my wrist, and I love this blue strap with the folding clasp on it. It has an updated design which feels even closer to the source but matches the expectations for the modern day. At the time of filming this, the retail price on the Zenith Chronomaster OG is $8,400 on the strap versions in either white dial or reverse panda dial, and $9,000 for the bracelet version. It's a welcome addition to Zenith's collections, which features the new Chronomaster Sport, which is a new modern chronograph design with 10-bar water resistance. These new Chronomaster Originals, where this watch fits in as the retro modern El Primeros, the Defy collection as the Go Anywhere Do Anything daily watch, the Pilot collection for the aviation style, and the Elite collection for the dressy timepieces. Overall, I'm just excited about this watch, and if I had it in my own collection, I'm gonna definitely pair it with different straps because I can tell this watch is definitely a strap monster. Thank you so much for watching this video on the new Zenith Chronomaster OG in 38mm. If you're new here, please make sure to subscribe to our channel. Here at Care & Co, we love watches and we love talking about it, so your support means the world to us. If you like this watch as much as I love it, please make sure to hit that thumbs up, like this video, and leave a comment below on what are your thoughts on the new 38mm watches. It's been a minute, and I can't wait to see you all next time. Bye bye.